Sri Pranab Mukherjee, Chancellor, District University, Professor Dinesh Singh, former Vice Chancellor, Delhi University, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, very good evening to all of you. When I came here, being accompanied by Pranab Mukherjee and Professor Dinesh Singh, I found a lot of people are waiting outside because the accommodation in the hall is limited. Now I understand, Professor Singh, how and why these people are waiting outside. Because you are going to introduce the subject, and in the magnificent way you have introduced the subject that I hardly need anything to add to redefine education in our context of India. I'll just start my observation with a personal anecdote which kindled my deep interests, particularly on higher education. When I entered the office of the President as 13th President of the Republic, I came to know, which I did not know, even being long years, almost quarter of a century, in the cabinet of the Union government under various prime ministers, starting from Indira Gandhi and ending with Dr. Mukherjee. I am candidly admitting that I did not have that much knowledge that President of India, in his ex officio capacity, is Chancellor of more than 130 central institutions, of which about 48 are central universities. Naturally, a lot of invitations came from different institutions to address them on their convocations. And referring to my interaction with the director of one of the IITs, it was the first batch of IITs established by Pandit Nehru at the advent of the second 5-year plan, when through the Mahalanobis planning model, emphasis was given on making India fast industrialized. I am talking of the mid-50s and early 60s. So Nehru recognized that there is need of having capable technical persons, having knowledge, and also practical wisdom to implement and convert the knowledge for the benefit of society. To one such IIT I was invited, and after the formalities were over, convocation address was delivered. Then I had interaction with director and some of the senior faculty members, along with the director, over a cup of tea. I asked, Mr. Director, what is the campus recruitment? He said, sir, more than enough. If I had more capacity, I could have given more job to bright young men and women. Then, second question I asked, and then he went on saying, elaborating the point, that almost every part of the world, graduates of that IITs are running the important multinational organizations, being in very top positions. Listening to that, then my second question to him was, could you tell me how many of them are staying in your country, in our country, and joining institutes like yours? His reply was, I don't have the exact figure. No, don't bother about it, I will find out. But I want to know. I said, hardly any. Then I put the third question to him. Mr. Director, do we require spending the scarce resources of the country over creating the institutions just to promote the self-promotion of a product like a detergent produced by a multinational companies? Do you require the qualifications of an IIT graduate? He said, sir, I get your point. Well, no, you carry on your activities, we are highly satisfied with your performance. But this gives me the hint, what is my duty for the next 5 years. It was in the very first few months of the first year of my presidency as 13th President of the Republic. Professor Dinesh Singh will bear it out, and thereafter, almost like a parrot, it was my repetition of the same point on improving the qualification, qualities, on raising the standards of the higher education in our country. I used to ponder over, had discussions with HRD ministers, senior officials, vice chancellors, institutionalized a conference of the directors of IITs, NITs, IISERs, scores of management institutions, and Central University vice chancellors. When I used to meet a newly appointed governor of a state who normally used to come and pay a courtesy call to the president, who is technically appointing authority but not virtually, because president, as per amended Article 74 of the Constitution, while discharging his duties and responsibility, president is to discharge his responsibility, advice of the Council of Ministers. From 26 January to the October 1974, these words were not in the Article 74 of the Indian Constitution. These were the contributions of the 42nd Amendment. But that's besides the point, I am just making a casual reference to it. Why I say that it is virtual appointment but not real appointment, real appointing authority. I gave him a copy of the Constitution Now it is well read. You are supposed to know it. But what I find from the reports which I receive from the various governors, that sometimes they forget what is the role which has been defined in the Constitution. And also told them that one system which I have introduced and I have intention to continue it, institutionalize the conference, annual conference of the Vice Chancellors of Central Universities and Directors of the institutions, of which I am ex officio chairman, visitor, or chancellor. Designations vary. Similarly, the universities, and their numbers are much more. Right now, when I am speaking before you, there are more than 760 universities, and surely the information when I got by this time, it has been added by a few numbers, and more than 40,000 colleges. And the second one which I pondered and continued to repeat like parrot in all educational congregations, how is it that the country, despite its difficulties in different phases, almost 1500 years from the days of Takshashila in 3rd century BC to 12th century AD, destruction of Nalanda, 1500 years the scholars, students, teachers were attracted like magnet in universities, centers of excellence in India. And today, every year, how many thousands of bright students, after at the graduation stage or at the post-graduation stage, goes abroad, leave the country. And all of them do not come back. It's good that they are being settled there. I do not consider it as brain drainage, but I consider it as some sort of, we are supplying the brains to the growing society on the international level. But at the same time, we shall have to keep in mind that charity begins at home. We must require the intelligent, well qualified, well articulated, well disciplined young men and women to build this nation. And my concept of nation is not confined to any narrow vision. My concept of nation is, when I think of India, I do not just think of a territorial limit which has been defined in Indian Constitution in Schedule 1, territory of India. In my younger days, when education system was controlled by the imperial rulers, when I used to draw the map of India, that is my impression of India, but recognizing political reality, excluding Pakistan and Bangladesh territories. Right now, 1.32 billion people occupy the territories which is defined in Schedule 1 of Indian Constitution. which is 3.3 million square kilometers, which consists of 7 religions, practiced everyday life, which consists of 120 dialects, 120 languages, 1600 dialects are being used in their daily life. That is the concept of my nation. The concept which European countries adopted after the series of treaties of Westphalia in 1645, a defined territory having a common language, more or less adhering to a common religion, and also identifying an enemy. In India, I cannot. I am not talking I should not, I cannot identify an enemy. Since 5,000 years ago, up to the days of 1920, when Rabindranath Tagore and Mahatma Gandhi established Vishwabharati and Gujarat Vidyapith, they have taught us Yatra Vishwabhavette Hodiram. Whole universe is settled here, has made its nest here. We start our prayer by observing Sarve Sukhina Bhavantu, Sarve Santu Niramam. Total inclusiveness, no exclusivity. Therefore, as Professor Sinha, while introducing the subject, in a very magnificent manner, drew our attention to some of the very salient features. Professor Singh has very clearly mentioned how knowledge systems were used to aid the country, its economy, over several centuries. So what is the challenge for us in India today? Somewhere where perhaps India, owing to various pernicious external particularity in the 19th century, lost its moorings in large measures. Yet, the ever-resilient spirit of India refuses to get suppressed and strives nobly and with vigor. This is also evidenced by the strivings of many great souls from the start of the 20th century. Prominent among them were Tagore, Mahatma Gandhi, who were concerned about the lack of educational institutions that were suited to India's needs and to give utterance to, as Jawaharlal Nehru put out, it's a soul, quote unquote. Though Tagore and Gandhi had slightly different approaches, the similarities in their philosophies and practices were striking. Both gave the expression to their ideas in the form of institutions when Tagore set up at Shantiniketan and Mahatma Gandhi and Kashi Vidyapith. During the lifetime of Tagore, he made it almost prohibited that no fund will be received from the government. It must be done by the charity and contributions from the people. Fortunately, Gujarat Vidyapith is still maintaining that tradition. though after the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi in 1948. His chancellorship vested in Morarji Desai, who was an important cog in the parliamentary system of India, either as finance minister of Maharashtra, not Maharashtra, then Bombay Presidency, then chief minister, and then central minister, and finally prime minister, but did not have the temptation to take a cover from the treasury. Such a discipline was restored and it was developed. Of course, I do not think that it is essential in today's context. What is more important, that the aid must be without any baggage. When Nalanda and Vikramshila were totally supported by the state revenues from the allocated villages surrounding the universities, there were no stings. In what direction universities will go, will learn, will exchange views. Universities are expected to be the ground of cross-fertilization of ideas. Taxila was the confluence of four civilizations: Greek, Persian, Indian, Chinese. All universities, if it is worth the name of the university, it must have no barrier in the process of thought. Truly, when Mao Zedong used the phrase, I do not know what was in his mind, but the phrase is associated with his name in the days of cultural revolution. Let 100 flowers blossom, 100 schools of thought contained, but in a limited way I do feel every university must have 100 thoughts, 100 schools of thought, thousands of flowers, independent. Each one of them has its own beauty and cannot be generalized. Race against time. India's challenges stem from its need to harness the energies of its teeming millions in a very young age group and give them direction. India can and should strive to use this young population pool to not just stay competitive in a globalized world, but also set the piece of growth and development as it did in the past. Some of the challenges have been highlighted by Professor Singh very eloquently, and I do not want to repeat it. However, I do wish to draw on my own experience and learning throughout my career to add to them. In such a situation, the role of the state becomes critical. No agency can hope to replace the strength of the state when it comes to the question of providing resources and legislative support. No doubt, much of what we have seen over the years up to the present, which can be deemed as positive and productive, owes a great deal to the support of the state. However, what is paramount importance is to create an environment where some of the mistakes in the past can be pruned away and the good and positive achievements can be further strengthened and supplemented. Let me illustrate how state intervention and support in the realm of education leads to the benefits for society. In the 80s, the late M.J. Ramchandran, 80s of the last century, as the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, launched the midday meal scheme for school students in state-run schools of Tamil Nadu. One of the direct and the lasting benefits of that scheme has been the increase